The pH level of rainwater is a bit of a tricky thing, and it's something that people very often overlook. As rainwater is very low mineral content, it desperately wants to absorb minerals from its surrounding. And typically what happens when you store water is it absorbs CO2 out of the atmosphere, drastically lowering the pH, giving you a very corrosive water. So what this little demo unit here is this is a smaller version of our pH correction vessel, and this is typically what you would do to address that problem. We'd fill this vessel with one of a few forms of calcite, depending on the situation, and what you would actually do is you would have something like this on a circulation loop back into the rainwater tank, and then you'd measure the pH of the rainwater, and depending on what the pH is, you'd actually set this unit to dose calcite back into the water to increase the pH. Typically your target range which you want to achieve is about 7.2 to 7.4 on the pH scale, and you can measure this with a simple either pH test strips or DPD tablets or drops that you would get from a swimming pool shop. Typically you would have other things such as chlorine on your loop for correcting the pH. This is the optional bypass loop. Now for normal operation this unit would just be completely bypassed, but if you then want to adjust the pH, say after you've had quite a bit of rain and you notice that the pH has dropped in your tank, you would simply redirect the water through the actual calcite unit. It's got a valve on it which is capable of backwashing. This is only if you find that it's not being effective. Then what can happen is that there's channels either inside that form that you're not getting calcite exposed to the water, or that the calcite is covered in dirt, and then you can actually backwash the unit to get it to have a nice surface area to dissolve into the water again. So you would set it up like this to dose calcite, and then you would just need to run it for a little bit, test the pH of the water after it's stood for had a little bit of time so it's mixed in, and then keep doing this process until you have corrected the pH to a point where it's safe to use inside of your house's pipes. If you don't use something like this, the big risk you have is that the pipes actually get corroded, and an indication of this is typically if you find you either getting this sort of a reddish brown tinge coming through, which is typically from galvanized pipes being corroded, or a blue or green tinge coming through in the water. You typically see it if there's a basin where it drips, or in the toilet you'd see there's a discoloring there, and that's normally an indication of corrosion. If you're seeing this, you definitely need to get something like this in place fairly quickly. An alternative to this would be to use something like Silifos, which is more of a stopgap approach. You coat the inside of the pipes to just prevent them from being corroded. For a permanent installation where you're planning to use the rainwater often, we definitely recommend the calcite, but if it's only occasional use, something like the Silifos is also okay.